next speaker, Gilad Cohen, is an artist, human rights advocate, and founder and executive director of JAYU, a Canadian charity that shares human rights stories through the arts. Feeling the need to raise more awareness in his own community, he launched JAYU in 2012, using art as the main vehicle. Gilad has been invited to speak on human rights in several media and other platforms, such as the 19th session of the UN Human Rights Council meeting in Geneva in 2012. In 2015, he was selected as Rothschild Fellow through the University of Cambridge in the UK. His presentation is entitled The Art of Building Community, How JAYU Builds Safe Spaces to Share Human Rights Stories Through the Arts.
An incredible thing happens when you witness that moment in someone's life when they realize for the first time that they are really, really good at something. I sometimes feel like if I could extract the energy from that moment and channel it in the right way, I could pick up a mountain and move it to another planet. Last summer, I saw the most massive and beautiful light bulb hover over Fida's head. Hover above Fida's head. Fida is a 12-year-old girl who happens to be a participant in our IM program last summer and who also happened to be a newcomer and refugee from Syria. 4 days into the program, she picked up her phone and began the process of taking the most beautiful photo I've ever seen. Here it is. What made this moment beautiful was how beautiful this photo came out, but what truly made this photo memorable was how that photo made her feel. It's as if in that moment, a door had opened up and showed her a whole new world where she could be anything or anything she wanted to be. But most importantly, in that moment, she was able to shed her labels and just become an individual with limitless potential. There aren't enough moments in life where you're granted these kinds of opportunities where all you could do is just stand back and be in awe that you're witnessing something so transformative and something so powerful for somebody else. My name is Gilad Cohen. I'm an artist, a photographer, a human rights activist, and also the founder and executive director of JAYU. Here's me and my incredible team. Now, JAYU is a human rights charity that shares stories through the arts. We do so primarily through our annual Human Rights Film Festival, our podcast called The Hum, and also our I Am Youth Empowerment Project. Here's me back in 2012. I had just gotten out of a long-term relationship. My connection to myself was lost, and I was also starting to isolate myself. To be honest, I was going through a pretty tough time. When I was in that state, I was surfing through the web, and I came across this web article that featured the beautiful photography of a guy named Sotio. It was beautiful pictures, cityscapes, architecture, life in the city, you name it. What blew me away was not just the photography, but how at the end of the article it had said, surprise, this was all taken with an iPhone. What? An iPhone? You mean to tell me that this very thing in my pocket could take these kinds of pictures? So I started walking around Toronto and I started trying to emulate this guy. And I'll be honest, at first it wasn't very good. But over time and with practice, things started to get better. But I noticed one thing. Over time, as I was also starting to get better at photography, I was also starting to get better inside. Whether it was the fact that I was surrounded by a whole new community of photographers, or whether it was the fact that I was just investing my energy into something creative, I was beginning to heal and beginning to transform. Years later, I was working at a youth shelter called Horizons for Youth, and I thought to myself, if photography could help me heal or overcome in certain ways, could it do the same thing for the youth? So we applied for some funding through JAYU, and we got it, and we launched something called the IM program. An initiative that would provide training to established photographers here in the city to become arts mentors for youth from communities that are facing barriers. We got 6 phones donated and 6 youth who signed up for the program, and over the course of several weeks we would walk into the shelter with our phones and provide photography workshops. We would teach different elements of photography like rule of thirds, portraits, landscapes, movements, that kind of thing, and then we take the youth to different parts of the city to practice our photography. I'll be honest, at first, the youth were pretty skeptical of what we were doing. They were kind of hesitant, almost even distrusting of who we were or where this project was going. But we noticed over time, as we were practicing photography more and more together, we were starting to smash through all these barriers. We were actually starting to develop trust and community between us. So what we did is we capitalized on that trust, and we entered the second phase of the program where we started to share our personal stories. We taught the youth about the structure of sharing a good story, what a good narrative is, and just in general what a good story is. I opened up the space by sharing first, so I talked a little bit about how I was raised by a single mother, and we told the youth that they didn't have to open up about anything that was that serious, but there were a couple rules to follow. The first being, they had to share a good story, and the second, it had to be personal and about themselves. With the freedom to open up about anything, the youth opened up about their struggles with homelessness. Some talked about their issues with substance abuse, while others talked about things like violence at home. The project all culminated when we took those audio stories, we printed and framed some of their photos, and we put them up in something that we called the I Am Gallery, which is an exhibition that toured around Toronto for a few months. If you were to go to the actual space, you would see their photos framed and put up on the wall just like this, and you'd be able to grab their headphones and listen to their stories told from their own mouth, some of them for the first time in their life. 100% of the profits from the photo sales would go directly back to the youth. I can't tell you guys how incredibly empowering it is to not just know that you created something that is being hung up in an exhibition, but to know that people are also admiring it and purchasing it as well. After 4 months of touring, the gallery ended up raising over $4,000. All that money went back to the youth. 5 out of the 6 kids actually ended up putting their money towards first and last month's rent and were no longer on the streets. But for us, the most powerful thing was something that came sort of unexpectedly. Even though the program had ended and even though funding had dried up, we were still hanging out together. We were still going out, taking pictures, and being a community. So the program ends, and we're thinking, now what? Was this just a fluke? Was this just the right combination of people in a room together? So we decided to apply for funding and do the program again. And in 2016, last year, we reintroduced the IM program. Except we wanted to look at this whole idea of community. Community was really great, or we were we had an easy time building community with the first group, and we wanted to see if we could do it the second time around. After all, who could best benefit from a community-driven initiative than those who've been forced to flee or leave one behind? So we decided to offer this program. And so the program grew from 6 participants the previous year to 25. And we also grew from having 6 artist mentors to 19. 3 of those artist mentors were actually youth that had participated in the program before and had come back this year in a mentorship capacity. It was a real honor to be able to provide to these youth for the first time in some of their lives an opportunity to lead. And to be honest, they exceeded every single expectation, and they were such great leaders. So when we initially introduced this program, we wanted to see if we could achieve some of the same results as last year. Primarily, we wanted to see if through art and photography, we could build friendships, create a safe enough space where these youth felt comfortable sharing their stories, but also build a community. We were hesitant for about 5 whole seconds. I love art. I love how I can create something out of thin air. And I love how through art or photography, I can now walk around my city and take notice that there are 2 billion different flavors of light and that they all sing or dance or bounce off things in magical ways. And I love how if I'm armed with my camera and deep enough in awe, it's sometimes easy to forget that I could be in an alleyway, literally crouching for like an hour, trying to recreate the magic that's happening in front of me. And that's why I love photography, not just because it gives me a photo where I can recreate that magic, but that it gives me deeper meaning and it gives me deeper purpose. Through photography, I can express myself in ways that I never could with words. And the best part is that there's a community of other people who feel just the same way. And if that community is a healthy or supportive one, it doesn't matter what age you're from, what language you speak, or what you do, because it's art or design that bonds us. And it only took about 5 whole seconds to see this whole thing unfold with the program last year. On the first day, even though we didn't know each other and we were all different ages, as soon as we picked up cameras, we were walking around and taking pictures and smashing all kinds of barriers. By the 3rd day, some of the youth felt comfortable enough opening up and sharing elements of themselves. By the 4th day, while Fida was crouching down taking pictures of pigeons, there were so many supermassive, humongous light bulbs hovering over so many of our heads, you would have thought we were robbing the rest of the city of its creative energy. But the true magic unfolded on the last day. When we opened up the space and we told the youth that they could share anything about themselves, here was Fida, who stood up again. She came up to the classroom, and you could tell that her nervousness began to dissipate as each word from her mouth was met with love and respect by the rest of us. In that brief moment, her words bonded us, and as she stood there, growing as a giant in front of all of us, her transformation had become symbolic for the community that we'd all built together. I just want to share quickly what she had to say.
I'm 12 years old and I'm from Syria. I'm happiest when I'm with my family. Honestly, I don't have friends here yet, but I wish to make one special friend. In Syria, I had a friend named Farah, and we loved each other. We left Syria to go to Jordan, and on the way they started shooting at us, and I saw people dying in front of my eyes. Farah died in front of me. The others were fine, thank God. When we went to Jordan, the people weren't nice to us at all, though a few families were good. Many said that we stole their land and that we're bad people. They forbid Syrians from working in Jordan, but thank God we managed. In Damascus, my father had a shop, and one day the government came and arrested him at work. My mom didn't tell us that our father was in prison, but I overheard her talking to my grandma once, and I heard her saying that he had been arrested. It was a big shock for me. My mom tried to calm me down and convince me that Dad was still working, but I didn't believe her. It doesn't matter where I am. All that matters is for me to feel safe, and when I'm with my family, it feels like I'm back home. I saw some of my friends' parents die in front of my eyes, so I'm thankful to God for keeping my parents with me. I love Syria. It's my first country. I was born and raised in it. For me, it's like a second mom. Canada is now a second home. Thank you, Canada. I love it here because they treated us with love and care. On the other hand, I hated Jordan because people there were hypocrites. When I first came to Canada, I went to Happy Camp and they treated us like normal kids. They were very nice to us and greeted us kindly by gathering all the Syrians in one place and making us one whole family. I'd like to give some advice. Don't underestimate yourself because one day you will be able to make something amazing for this earth. Thank you for listening.
It really was a really beautiful project, and for those of you who are interested in hearing the other 24 youth stories or checking out the exhibition as it is part of this To Do festival, it will be on full display at the Center for Social Innovation at Bathurst and Bloor until this Friday. Thank you so much.